Hi, I'm Robert, and today I'm going to show you how to take this image of Laguna Beach from here to here, just using Lightroom. In this video, I'm going to show you how to accentuate each part of this image using the brush tool. First off, let's get our base edit done. Let's start at the bottom like we usually do. Make sure we're with the current version, and we're going to skip vignetting. Click on Constrain Crop, and let's straighten this image. It's a little bit off. That's better. I shot this on an old camera that didn't have a leveler, so most of my older images are slightly crooked. As always, we're going to click on these two boxes to enable the profile corrections and remove the chromatic aberrations. Let's do our standard sharpening routine of 100 sharpening and applying the mask. Hold down the Alt key to see the mask. We're going to sharpen everything but the sky. Right about there looks good. We'll come back to the color section later. Let's bring the temperature down a bit. There's a lot of orange in this image. We'll key in 5000. And let's brighten it up slightly. As always, we'll bring our highlights down and our shadows up. We don't want to go all the way up, it's a little too washed out, so bring it down slightly. Let's set our white point by bringing the white up until we start clipping. You can see if we're clipping up here in the histogram. We'll do the same with the blacks. So right there. This was shot on a Canon 40D with a Tokina 11-16. It's not the sharpest image, so let's add a little bit of clarity to punch it up. Also, I was using a 3-stop soft edge graduated neutral density filter to help expose for the sky. Alright, let's go down to the colors. Now we start with luminance. Luminance is the brightness of each color. So I want to darken up the colors. So let's darken up red and orange. And let's bring down yellow a bit. And we'll do the same with magenta and purple. I'm bringing down all of the colors I see in the sky. Now we're going to saturate those colors. So go to saturation. Let's bring red up. We're going to bring orange up quite a bit because there's a lot of orange in this picture. And we're going to also do magenta and purple. So that's our base edit to start working with. So now let's start using some of the tools. We're going to take care of the sky first with the gradient tool. Grab the tool, pull it down. We're going to put it at a little bit of an angle, right about there. And we're going to darken the sky. It's still a little bit bright, so we'll bring it down. And let's add some color to it. So click on this color tool down here. We want to add a little bit of orange, red kind of color. So we'll click here. You can move it around like this. That looks pretty good. We'll close it out. So that's what we did. Here's what it looked like before and after. We affected this area here, so let's remove that. So click on brush, then press O so we can see our overlay, and hold down the Alt key. The Alt key will turn your brush into an eraser, and let's just remove this area so it doesn't get the same treatment that we applied to the sky. That was easy. Press O to turn off the overlay, and we're done with the gradient tool. Alright, next we're going to do all of our brush work. So click on the brush, and let's start with working with this cliff. It's a little bit dark, so press O to turn on your overlay. Brush in the area we want to play with. That looks good. I'm going to turn up the exposure just a little bit to brighten this up. I want it to stand out a little bit more. Next up, let's go click New, and I'm going to work on the ocean water. So let's brush that area. That's good. I'm going to bring down the exposure slightly, and I'm going to bring the saturation up. So we added a little bit of darkness, and we brought the colors up to kind of make it pop. Let's click on New. Let's work on our next spot, which will be this white water area. So press O for your overlay so you can see where you're working. And let's brush in all of this area. To make this stand out more, we're just going to bring the exposure up a little bit to right there. And let's click on a new brush. The last thing that we can work on is our foreground element here. So let's do some work here. Turn on our overlay. I want these rocks to stand out a bit more, and I'm going to do that by using the texture. Right there is good. So let's close out of our brush. Let's take a look at our composition. Here's our rule of thirds tool. You can see we place the horizon on the top third line. By placing the horizon here, it gives emphasis to your foreground. I usually don't place the horizon in the middle. Placing the horizon in the middle doesn't tell your viewer if the sky is more important or if your foreground is more important. We also have a nice leading line caused by the water that goes through our image and leads up to the house that we brightened up using the brush tool. It's important to time the waves as they're coming in, know what shutter speed you're using, and when to press your shutter button. This image wouldn't look the same if the wave hadn't crashed yet, and if there was still just a wave building way out here. We just have a lot of empty area of sand down here. So I waited for the water to come in and nearly touch the rocks. So let's take a look at our settings for this image. So we're at half a second, f14, and ISO 200. f14 is my go-to aperture because everything in the foreground to the background is going to be sharp. And during sunset times, it puts us at a nice spot for shutter speeds. In this case, we're at a half a second, which gave us a nice long exposure, creating these streaks in the water. At a half a second, we still have a nice amount of texture out here, so it still looks like a natural ocean image. Would you guys take out these people from the image? I think I'm just going to leave them in. Leave a comment below. So that's how I edit this image, taken in Laguna Beach, looking towards Victoria Beach, which is right down here. I hope you learned some new tips and tricks. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks.